All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for part two. I went ahead and fixed these just because it was bothering me, but let's take a look at the rest of this here. So you see the close form tag that we were already talking about. Here is an input of type submit. That's just the submit button here. And again, it's going to run this action that's on their server. That's what shows us this part here. That's what displays this. But we're not going to get into that. So let's talk options, because in this form there are so many different things we can do. It's crazy. So strap your seatbelts on tight because we're going to sprint through these, okay? Let's go to here. Here are form elements. Here's a list of things that you can put in the form element. There's the form tag we already talked about. Input. This is arguably the most important form element. It is, by default, it's a text box, but you can do so many different things with it, and we'll actually take a look at that here in just a minute. Text area, label, all of these kind of things, they're really, really important to get familiar with. We don't have time to go through all of them. I am going to talk about the label really quick. A label is just what it sounds like. It puts a label in front of something so that the user knows what they're doing. So let's go ahead and put a label here just so that I can show you. If we go here, we'll put a label in. So I've got an open tag and a close tag. We're going to go ahead and do this here so that the user will see the word rating, and it's going to be for the rating form element here. So now you see the word rating is displayed. That's all it is. It's really, really helpful and powerful when we start using JavaScript. But for now, it's a good way to put this here. We can also do some really cool styling through CSS to make it look good. But again, that's just how you would put those labels for the form controls. If we come back over here, we see field set, legend, select we already looked at, option. There's two more that I want to talk about. The rest you can kind of look up on your own. Select we already looked at. That's a drop-down list that forces a user to select one of those items that you've made possible for them to select. There's data list. It's a lot the same. They will click and see something akin to a drop-down menu, but they can also type in their own thing. So while this forces them to pick something that you've a predefined list, this one is kind of a suggestion. It says here's a bunch of things that you might want to choose, or you can type in whatever you want. All right. Now let's look at input types. So this input element, you put a type attribute on it. And this type attribute, you can have it be a type button, like we saw here. This is an input type submit. That's not a button, but that's a submit. That's down here. There's a type button, and you can use either server-side code or JavaScript to work with that. You can do checkboxes. You can do all of these things here with this 5. These are HTML5 only. If the browser that's looking at this is an older browser, i.e. 9 or before, and that kind of generation of browsers that can't use HTML5, this color picker, instead of being a really pretty color picker where they get a select off this little palette, it's going to be a text box because everything defaults to a text box. So if all of these things with a 5, if you're worried about your users having older browsers, it's going to default to a text box, and they're going to have to type in the RGB code to make it work. So you might want to have placeholder text or some kind of helper to show them what kind of data you're looking for if you're planning on using these more advanced things and your users might be using older stuff. Anyway, again, let's jet through these real quick. So you got buttons, checkboxes, color pickers, date and time, local, email. Email and things like URL and tel, what they do is they're mostly for mobile and smaller, like a touch keyboard. If you use email, it'll validate things, making it look like a normal email address with the @ symbol and .com or whatever. It'll also add those things to that touch keyboard to make it easier. Again, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to cut it off here. Just know there's a ton of things to do. That's the basics on how to use it. I used SitePoint for my information and W3 Schools for these presentations. And one more thing real quick, there's a bunch of attributes here that'll be really helpful for you to learn